Hey everyone, welcome to episode 125 of the Alamodome Audible podcast. Hope everyone's staying safe out there. This is Jared. I've got Adrian on the line with me as well. Adrian, how you doing, man?
What is good? I'm doing well, managing, surviving, and thriving. How about yourself?
Pretty good. We adopted that dog recently. I think I said that on the last podcast, so that's been most of my life. Was able to squeeze in a short vacation too, so that was nice. And went to the hill country and kind of hung out in a cabin, read some books.
Ah, beautiful, beautiful.
I think it's been like a month since we did like a regular episode. We've done a couple of like rewatches of old games on Patreon. We did the interview with Coach Trailer that was on Zoom. We uploaded that, but it's been a while since we just sat down and kind of hit the news. You know what I'm saying? So we've got a lot to catch up on. We're gonna get right into it. But before, just want to give a big Patreon shout out to all of our subscribers. We have a new first-time subscriber this month, Nathan Glover. Thank you for your support, much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Also, want to say thank you as always to our big money donor, Nolan Main guy. Miss you, dude. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah.
As well as our board of trustees members, Digiteek and John Otwell. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Also, we've got a special shout out this month for Father's Day, and that's for Sumner McDaniel, who is one of our most loyal listeners. He's a great guy. Sons Mason and Calvin and wife Amanda wanted us to give you a shout out for Father's Day. So here you go. Hope you have a great one. Hope you have a great weekend. Maybe get a good steak, some beers, get a kick back, relax a bit. So thank you again. And thank you to your wife Amanda for reaching out to us. We really appreciate it. And of course, happy Father's Day to all of you guys out there, because I know we have a ton of dads listening to this podcast.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all that you guys do.
Absolutely. All the Alamodome Audible dads and their dads, everyone's dad, happy Father's Day. Hope you guys are able to celebrate even with the times. Hopefully y'all are able to find a way to come together with the family, the kids especially, and they gave y'all a little bit of much deserves presents, gifts, and attention. You guys deserve some.
Adrian, has your dad ever listened to the podcast?
No, I don't think so. I should show him an episode though.
Nice, that's funny. I think my dad used to listen a bit before my mom passed away. My mom would listen all the time.
I remember.
So I think my dad would listen when my mom would play it, but I don't know if he ever listens nowadays.
Yeah, my dad would probably get bored of it quick unless we were talking about the Cowboys.
Yeah. We can have our dads on to do a Cowboys episode one time.
Oh my God, that would be so epic. That would be so epic.
My dad just learned how to do GIFs, man. I don't think he's ready to record a podcast. That's a technical leap for him.
I pray that my father never learns how to use GIFs. That would be terrible.
my dad is already like very short on words, and now that he knows how to use GIFs, like I'll text him like a paragraph, and he just responds with like the Power Ranger shrugging. I'm like, Dad, give me something, man. Come on.
That's sweet. Yeah. That is sweet.
It's entertaining for sure.
So, are you gonna send him? Are you gonna send anything down to Victoria for him? Are you gonna maybe try to go see him?
I'm gonna go down to Victoria. I don't know what we're gonna do. Coronavirus is finally caught on in Victoria, so I don't know if we want to go out to eat. We'll probably just pick something up. I'm not sure yet. My dad, he's so laid back. He didn't request anything.
Of course. Of course. It's a true dad move right there.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Don't want nothing. Yeah, of course. I love it. Well, cool, man. Well, awesome. Very awesome.
Yeah. Well, I guess on a more somber note, maybe an inspiring note as well. I guess like since the last time I recorded, man, it just feels like so much has gone on in the world. You know what I mean?
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
And a lot of that's real life issues that, of course, bleed over into the UTSA realm, as it impacts everyone. Especially a college football program with majority African American, player base, and of course, with the George Floyd situation in Minneapolis, as well as like the huge outpour of protest and all that stuff across the nation, just social unrest. A lot of coaches, a lot of programs are having a lot of discussions internally of how they can support each other and learn from each other and all that. So of course UTSA fell into that as well. Coach Trailer said that he had a hard time finding the right words to say, and kind of boosted some of his assistant coaches who did put statements out, some of which I found to be very moving. Anything stick out to you from UTSA? I mean, do you think they did too little, just enough?
No, I think it's very, very. I don't think you should have standards on what the
Hmm.
response should be from any company, corporation, group, university, whatever it is. I don't think you should have a standard or barometer that you expect that they need to do X amount. Look, acknowledgement is the most important thing. And I think we've seen that across the board. I think we've seen every university and big company and large corporation, everyone has come out and acknowledged it, right? And I think that's important.
Hmm.
UTSA did that. And then we got to have, a little bit more personalized messages from coaches, certain faculty members, and accounts, sub accounts, different departments, and that's really, I think, all that you can ask and all that you can expect, and and
Hmm.
and I understand we want everyone to go above and beyond, but I think it's very, very important to not demand that.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
What I'm always afraid of is people doing the performative woke thing where they're putting out these statements that are hollow and are just words on paper, but they're not taking that and applying it to their life and how they treat people that face discrimination on a day-to-day basis and, how they support people from marginalized communities and boost them up and give them opportunities that, have been lacking in their
yeah,
communities, throughout our history in the U.S.
and
Um,
UTSA is not the type of name that needs to kind of do more, that needs to go above and beyond to prove that. I mean, you're talking about a minority majority university and a minority majority city. You're
mhm.
talking about more diverse faculty than probably a vast majority of universities that you would go to across the state, across the country. And I mean, this is absolutely a place where diversity thrives at
Mhm.
UTSA. Minorities have always had a voice. This has always been a flagship place for anyone and everyone.
Yeah,
Uh, and
absolutely. And
so
personally, that
yeah,
was one of the main things that attracted me to UTSA is I went to tour a lot of campuses and it was just a lot of white faces, and I felt like if I was in a scenario like that, as someone who grew up in a town where it was like that, then I wouldn't be exposed to, the real world and like how a
hmm
lot of people grew up and lived their lives and the challenges that they faced. I'm so glad I went to a school like UTSA, which, put me in scenarios where I would have those discussions with friends and people that I met, and I grew so much. I mean, outside of the classroom, that was a big part of my maturation process and maybe the person who I am today. And that's not to say that UTSA is perfect. Obviously, there are a lot of opportunities for UTSA to do better. We can't rest on our laurels and, tout our diversity scores and stuff like that. I mean, it's got to be put into practice every single day. And that goes from
yeah,
the students on campus to the leadership to the football coaches, training staff, everyone. Everyone has to, take that upon themselves to support, their fellow Roadrunner in whatever way they can and make sure that everyone's getting equal opportunities and equal protection of the law, and that those of us that do have privilege are on the front lines, and using that privilege for good to support our brothers and sisters.
yeah, oh yeah, and same with myself. A big attraction to UTSA was that inclusion. I mean, I'm a minority. I grew up around a lot of minorities, and Houston is a place where you just have a whole bunch of different people in every single part of town. There's not necessarily, you know, an area that is really extremely, extremely predominant with any one single type
Hmm.
of person. I mean, there's certain neighborhoods, maybe subdivisions and stuff like that, but I mean, quite honestly, Houston is ingrained all the way across it. And coming to UTSA, you had that. That comfortability. It felt like home, right? There's everyone's here. I don't feel judged, don't feel excluded, don't feel like a sore thumb, like I'm sticking out. And I do remember, UTSA was like kind of my first and only choice, but I remember going and visiting friends at other campuses throughout my college years and being taken aback at the demographic.
Oh yeah.
Kind of
Mhm.
around campus, around the scene, right? When you were kind of out and about different places around Texas, it was very, very interesting.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, I don't want to throw names of colleges out there, but you guys know,
yeah, for sure.
especially the private schools, man. I mean, it's just it's not representative of our state, which is very sad. Got to give credit to A&M. They put a statement out saying that they acknowledge that their student body is not representative of the demographics of our state, and they're working to fix that with a lot of, recruitment and financial aid drives, which that was really impressive. Like that's how you make real lasting change.
How does Texas's high school 10% rule play into all this, right? Because I mean, you think that, there's a lot of kids at every single school, right? And so I think it kind of creates like this sort of fair and equal sort of competition to get into your college of choice. But then you look at like the historical values of certain colleges, and of course, like a place like TMU probably just does not attract a lot of minorities in general, even ones that do want to study engineering and agriculture. You know what I mean?
Of course. Yeah, and so much of it is cultural too. I mean, like there are many universities in Texas named after or have monuments on campus honoring slave masters, Confederate generals. I mean, that's just a dark part of our state's history that's still there. And, thankfully UTSA doesn't have that problem because we're such a young university. But yeah, I think the situation the past couple months has brought that stuff to light. I think people are starting to understand how if you're a person of color, that can make you feel uncomfortable, even in a place that's supposed to be your home.
I'm gonna need you to go check on Francois right now.
I was gonna ask if you can hear him.
He's got some things to say about this civil unrest right now. I think Francois's got some points to make about this. And he's just a cat living in a dog world sometimes, All
right, Francois has been liberated from the jail cell that was the closed door.
Oh, wow.
Do it live on the Alamodome Audible.
I thought he was hungry, but he was just trying to escape. He was trying to get out.
It's just attention hungry, that's all.
That was phenomenal. That whole entire exchange. He sounds great, sounds healthy, sounds well.
Well, the dog is not here to terrorize him anymore. The dog is in like doggy training camp for the next 2 weeks. So Francois is thriving. He's no longer hiding in corners. He hides underneath the couch. So, Dude, he's out here.
Awesome. Living his best life right now. Is he enjoying having the house to himself?
I think so. Yeah, my girlfriend's convinced that he misses the dog because he likes the drama, which may be true, but I'm just not sure.
He probably likes the peace just as much, I bet.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So UTSA has kind of continued the conversation. I mean, we had, of course, the initial messages. President Amy came out right away and released a letter. But even just as recently as today, in fact, the university has provided an update on racial justice action steps, right? What they're calling. And so they've got commemorations coming up this Friday for Juneteenth, the ending of slavery in the United States. They've got some spaces and tools that they're trying to get together as far as dialogue and self-education. Some more in the works, but right now they're talking about the Multicultural Student Center for Equity and Justice, community gatherings for Roadrunners to suggest action steps, the Office for Inclusive Excellence, Multicultural Student Center for Equity and Justice, hosting community gatherings, provide virtual spaces to process and heal, therapeutic type stuff. And they made statements about institutional inclusivity, equity, advocacy, and curriculum integration, assessing our climate, increasing the diversity of our faculty and staff, and community policing. All points made in today's update. Mm-hmm. So
yeah, it's good. I'm glad they're focusing on it. I'm certainly not an expert in this field in the social studies, but it's really great to see UTSA taking a leadership role here and not just putting on the back burner and kind of hoping things die down. Doing some serious internal reflection. I think is really good.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a time to set the standard.
Mm-hmm.
I think kind of for us and for our counterparts across the G5 and across Texas.
Yeah, so speaking of which, I think that's a good segue to our next topic, which is probably going to be the primary focus of this episode. Of course, we're going to talk about the return to campus for student athletes. UTSA has guys on campus now, as do most schools, most football programs. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a mess, right? For sure.
Mm.
Not UTSA in general, but across the country.
Yeah.
When I started writing our notes out for this episode, I put Marshall and Oklahoma State, how they had players report for summer workouts test positive for COVID-19. I think Marshall had three, Oak State had four, or something like that. It turns out they were just the first schools to report. And like as other schools started coming in, it was pretty much universal across the board that pretty much every school that I've seen has had about five players test positive. Some symptomatic, some not.
That's right. Yeah, just even as recently as a few hours ago, Texas State had
Texas State,
five
yeah.
student
Hmm.
athletes test positive for COVID-19. So
Yeah.
um, that is going to be a reality and something that we're going to continue seeing as these practices and training and workout continues and seasons get closer. What's your overall temperature on all of this? What do you do?
Really bad. I don't think the response from most programs has been adequate. I think there's a lot of schools that were not testing at all upon arrival to campus. University of Houston's one example. They let the football players come back, start their workouts. I think in groups of 10. They didn't do any testing at all, and then within the first week, they had six players that were showing symptomatic response to coronavirus. And since they didn't test, there's no telling how many guys have asymptomatic positive status as well.
Right.
So if this was a game week, how do you think that would have gone down, right? Because they shut down their quote unquote voluntary workouts this week. I mean, what if this happened on a game week? What are they going to do? Are they going to play with six and probably more guys symptomatic? I mean, are they going to, in good faith, go out there and play their game and travel 2,000 miles to play another school, knowing full well that there is a very high probability that there are asymptomatic players on their team that are going to be within inches of guys on the other team? And just
Wow.
spreading that coronavirus around. I mean, I don't see how you do it, man. I think these guys are gonna have to get tested on a weekly basis for this thing to work, and I don't know if there's the infrastructure and the capital investment to make that happen for a lot of these schools.
You've got to, what you're saying is you've got to test every single week, symptoms, no symptoms. Every player on the roster needs to be tested. And if they are positive, they've got to, they've got to get put in quarantine. They've
Yeah.
got to go into
So,
self quarantine.
like UT has 15 players in quarantine right now. I think they had five or six guys that tested positive, and they had to quarantine the guys that were roommates with them, that worked out together in the gym, whatever it may be. It's 15 guys. I mean, I don't see how you have a quote unquote normal season like that. I mean, especially the teams that aren't testing frequently. I mean, it's just a ticking time bomb, is what I keep coming back to. I mean, do you think about the coaches too? I mean, a lot of these guys are very, very vulnerable to, having very serious symptoms of coronavirus. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not hard to imagine a scenario where there's 30 guys on the team that test positive, and then the coach is in the hospital. I mean, it's madness
Right.
to me to try to play
Right.
through that.
Right. It doesn't seem worth the risk, in your opinion.
I don't know. I mean, I get that this is a lot of money on the table. People's jobs depend on it, but these kids aren't getting paid, man. They're not employees. I,
Hmm.
and I don't understand
Hmm.
how you could say, oh, it's not safe for students to be back on campus. All the summer classes are online, but then all the football players are expected to come work out. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just exposing a lot
What's
of
that about?
fallacies.
What's
Yeah,
that
it's
about? Yeah.
exposing a lot of fallacies in the whole system, I think.
I mean, well, I think you nail it whenever you say you understand it's a lot of money, but look, these kids aren't getting paid.
Well, it's like, what are we here for? Like, what is truly the mission and the statement of college athletics? Is it to make money? Okay, we'll come out and say that, and we'll have a free market, and this would be capitalist-driven sport. That's fine. I have no problem with that, because that's how it is in reality. But there's amateurism BS, and they're saying, oh, they're students first, and then they're athletes, and uh, they can't profit off their image and yada yada and all this other crap. And then you're like literally exposing them to the most deadly virus we've seen in this country in over 100 years, and then like acting like it's just business as usual and there's nothing wrong here. I mean, it's ludicrous to me.
Right. Right.
And
I
there would be a right way to do it, but I think it's too expensive and it's too hard, and I don't think schools are going to do it the right way. And I think this season is just going to be a disaster for that reason.
It's too expensive is the main thing.
Hmm.
It's expensive for big budget schools.
Hmm.
What is a 50, 52 guys you need to test on a weekly basis? 56 guys you need to test on a weekly basis?
No, it would be like 150 something.
150 because the whole roster, right, top to
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah, yeah. And all the staff, from the coaches to the trainers, video
Yeah,
guys,
yeah, the kid.
assistants. I mean, up and down. Anyone who comes within 6 feet of a football player should technically be tested if you're not
Right,
the right way.
right. Student trainers are all over the place,
Hmm.
right? You got 1,000,000,001 kinesiology majors that are there stretching the athletes every single day.
Yep. I mean, think about the guy who is taping ankles for football players. It's physical contact. He's got to be within a couple of feet. If that guy's asymptomatic and he comes into work and he's wrapping those ankles and he wraps 50 guys, I mean, what are the chances he spreads it to a third of those? Then those guys go on and spread it to a third of people they come into contact with. I mean, it's crazy, man. I don't see how it's gonna work.
Well, it does seem as if the institutions are going to press onward.
Yeah, I agree. I think especially SEC schools, they're gonna play at all costs. I don't think they're gonna have any second thoughts. Like
So do you
they're gonna play
see
games on the third string quarterback. Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, so do you see some programs or some conferences pulling out altogether? Do you see like a I don't know. So I mean, if SEC is going to play at all costs, right? Big budget
Hmm.
program is going to play at all costs. But I mean, is the little guy going to say, "Look, we just can't do it. We can't afford to do this. We can't do this. We're going to have to pull it this year."
I'm not gonna be surprised at anything that happens. We already saw a Division 1 game get canceled today. Jackson State and oh man, I can't remember what the other school was. But yeah, I mean they play annually out of conference, and they canceled the game today. They said there's gonna be too many people there. It's not gonna be safe.
Wow.
And that decision was made by the city that hosts that game and said we're not gonna host you guys. So I don't know. Maybe they try to reschedule on a different date and get a different location. But both I checked today, and both teams just pulled the game off their schedule. They've got 11 games listed now. And I mean, if we're being realistic, man, I mean, we had a chance to get out of this and to play football this fall, and we screwed it. I mean, you look at the numbers across the country, especially in Texas, they're skyrocketing. And there's been talks of a second wave. We're still in the first wave, realistically. Like we never got down to a level where new
The wave
cases and
was over.
hospitalizations were low
Right.
enough, right?
Right. Right.
I think we blew our chance to get through this and have a regular season. I think cases are going to continue to rise. I mean, I'm sure most people that listen to this have seen, friends going out of crowded bars, people not wearing masks in public. I mean, so on and so forth. So I think we just ruined this. And I mean, I think the most successful season that I could see would essentially be like the whole season is played where every school's like on the coast in hurricane season and like pretty much has to like cancel one game, two games.
Right.
I think
Right.
you'll also see a lot of cases where whole position units will be sick because those guys are so close to each other for so many hours a week that it's extremely likely if one wide receiver tests positive, he's going to spread it to all the wide receivers. And I mean, what are you going to move defensive backs over wide receivers and try to play a game? I mean,
Risk their yeah. I mean, a lot of schools, if we do have to start canceling games, canceling half of a season, a lot of schools can't afford to stay afloat
no.
with missing half of a season or
Mhm.
without playing a season and coming back the next season. They might just go into default altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not outrageous to say that there might be football programs that don't don't exist in 2021.
It could kill off some football programs,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Wow,
No doubt
that
about
is
it.
freaking heavy, man. So if anyone was on the news cycles this morning, they saw this big old hoopla happening about players not being tested for the coronavirus at UTSA, Texas State, and U of H. This was referenced in a Houston Chronicle article. And a whole lot of back and forth has happened since then. UTSA athletics department has they had to spend probably half of their day on this. But they sent out an official statement, UTSA athletics clarification statement on COVID-19. Earlier today, quote, earlier today, there was a since corrected media report stating UTSA was not testing student athletes for COVID-19 upon reporting to campus for voluntary workouts. To clarify, all UTSA student athletes are undergoing COVID-19 testing before they can be cleared for voluntary workouts. Quote. So yeah, that Houston Chronicle article was inaccurate. UTSA is in fact doing initial testing to student athletes before they can return to workouts. And so thanks to the athletics department for clarifying that for everybody. And thanks to everybody for getting the right communication kind of in place regarding that. I won't say anything else.
Yeah, I mean, it was a relief for sure. I'm not sure how that misinformation got published. Like, I don't really know where that came from. But yeah, it's definitely good to hear. Pretty interesting that we didn't hear of any positive cases from UTSA. I think it's probably safe to assume that some players were positive and are in quarantine, but that hasn't
Mm-hmm.
gotten out.
Mm-hmm.
Unless UTSA is really lucky and the guys have been great and being super disciplined and self-quarantining at home, but
Those Philo workouts, baby. Maybe everyone's just been sticking on the Philo plan, staying inside.
maybe. But I feel like realistically, they don't want that getting out, which is understandable. It is a health privacy issue for sure,
Yeah,
which HIPAA
absolutely. I get
concerns.
it. You don't need to be releasing the information. I mean, and look, just because it's a number, just because you release the number, the fact of the matter is now you're gonna have people trying to find out who,
Yeah.
right? And that creates a huge issue. I
Hmm.
agree. Now what we're kind of uncertain is ongoing testing. So we've now pinpointed initial testing is happening at UTSA, but
Hmm.
the ongoing testing seems to be some vague verbiage around that, Jared.
Yeah, I agree. I reached out to UTSA today and I said like, hey, I'm sure you guys have seen these reports. They're saying that you guys are not testing, and they said no, we are testing. And I said, oh wow, that's great, awesome. What about like ongoing scheduled testing? And they kind of just referred me back to the statement about UTSA doing daily symptom checks and logging those. Um, but they never really came out and said like, yes, we are actually testing student athletes for coronavirus on a weekly basis or a monthly
Mm-hmm.
basis or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. It just seems to be if you show symptoms, you get tested, which in my opinion is inadequate because like we know for a fact that maybe most, maybe not most, but a large percentage of positive tests for coronavirus have been completely asymptomatic. And then they don't know they're positive, so they're spreading it to other people. Those people become symptomatic, and then that's how the community spread happens. And in a situation like a college football team where you've got 120 plus guys in super close quarters, and there's no way to social distance a football game. So I mean that stuff can spread crazy fast, and it would be so hard to go back and do contact tracing without this testing. Especially keep in mind, guys are going to be going through airports once the season starts. They're going to be going to different parts of the country.
Mm.
It's going to
Yeah.
get nasty, man.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, I hope, and of course, we're just getting started here. Obviously, the plans are going to change. Advisories from health officials are going to change. I mean, it was just 3 months ago where the WHO and the CDC were saying, oh, don't worry about wearing a mask. It doesn't do anything. And now, of course, the current research is saying that's the number one thing you can do to protect yourself and others. So, I mean, and that's part of my frustration too, is like, admittedly, we know so little about this virus, but yet we're still moving forward full speed ahead. I mean, it's really frustrating.
It's well, and I appreciate UTSA kind of coming out with the swiftness when it comes to clarification, making statements, and sort of getting the right information out there. And I know they've got this phased out plan that they've studied and they've put together with, different isolations and 7-day periods and 14-day periods. They don't want anybody no larger than groups of 10. I think those are all very, very good precautions, but how many other universities are taking all the same good precautions that you think your university is doing? And how good are these precautions that we think are so good?
Sure.
Right? Are they the right precautions at all?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very, very tricky, very, very messy, hairy situation. You said before the podcast, a really good point, is that if we're not doing testing on an ongoing basis, but we will do a test if a player is showing symptoms. If they're showing symptoms, it's already too late. I think is how you said it.
Yeah.
And
so we don't know for sure, but recent research, has shown that typically there's a 7-day incubation period where someone is positive and they're contagious, but they're not showing symptoms. So in a football program, that's too much exposure to be around that many people in that close proximity for a week. I mean, you spread it to so many people, and they spread it to other people. I mean, keep in mind, this is an exponential spread, right? So, I don't know. I mean, it's just gonna be so tough. Even if you do weekly testing for everybody, which I don't think anyone's gonna do, even if you did do that, you're still gonna have quick spread within that week until you get to the next week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what's the answer? Do we try to play the games, but just players that have tested negative are the only ones that are allowed to travel, and the only ones that are allowed on the gridiron, the only ones that are allowed to practice even? But even then, that's so volatile, so uncertain that we can't rely on having 2-3 deep offense and defense to be COVID negative.
And a rule like that would have to come from the NCAA, because if, say, you're the home team and you're saying, we're not going to let you guys come play us unless you only bring players that test negative that Friday before you travel. Okay, well, if they say, well, we've got 30 guys that tested positive, and they said, okay, you can't come. I mean, is the home team going to forfeit their game?
Right.
It has to be legislation from the NCAA that sets guidelines and standards for how these games can proceed. And I don't think just letting teams travel across the country untested to be in a football stadium is going to fly.
When it's no one can figure it out, right? It's the NCAA hasn't figured it out. Neither of the major sports associations have figured it out. NBA, MLB. What is the right way to go about it? I mean, in an ideal world, yeah, you'd have everybody COVID negative, or the only people that are allowed to play each other. But we don't have adequate testing to do that.
Mm-hmm. And test results come back too slow too. Is another big part of it.
How long do they take?
It depends. Some of them do come back pretty quick. I had a friend whose wife gave birth this week, and she got her test back in 2 hours. But I've also heard of friends taking a week to get tested, as recently as this week. One in San Antonio, one in San Marcos. So it really varies depending on where you get your test done and what the backlog is like for processing those samples. I would love to see if the NCAA headquarters are working from home or not, because if they're not comfortable going into their office, I don't understand how they can give the guidance to student athletes that it's safe for them to go play.
Yeah.
That's a big case of hypocrisy right there.
Interesting. Well, I think you nailed this hypocrisy whenever we talk about student athletes wanting to be student first and then athletes, but students are going to be fall semester via digital, and athletes will be on the field practicing and playing games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another action I would love to see the NCAA take is some type of protection for students that decide not to play this year. I mean, we're going to see that in the pro leagues, all for sure. I think there have already been some athletes in MLB. I think Snell from the Devil Rays, Blake Snell, is that his name? The pitcher?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple of NBA players as well. It's pretty much said hey, no matter what, I'm not going to play this year.
I'm not going to play.
It's not worth it for me. I mean, if I damage my lungs, that's long-term issue. And, I give up my entire career earnings from this point forward to play a half season or a third of a season that's going to be screwed up all the way through. So I think if there are student athletes that want to continue playing college football but decide to sit the season out, I think that they need to be given red shirts regardless of previous red shirt status. I think they need to be given protection for their scholarships as well, so that coaches can't say, well, if you're going to sit out this year, I'm going to pull your scholarship and make you transfer.
What about what about an institution saying we're not going to play? What if they make that decision? It says, what if just a university says we're not going to risk our athletes this year? Should there be some sort of protection for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be. I mean, if we're going to sit
fees?
here and we're saying we're students first, you have to, because that decision is only being made to protect the students. There's
Well-being
no
and
no
health.
other
Yes.
there's no other motivation or incentive for a school to do that, because they're going to lose a ton of money. They're going to lose a ton of publicity. It's going to hurt the attraction of students that see the games on TV and all that stuff. I mean, it hurts the school, and they're only going to be doing it to protect their students. It's a very noble cause, but I mean, we'll see what shakes out.
At the end of the day, man, cash rules the world, and I just foresee that kind of continuing to be the case. I mean, it's kind of proven with our own workforce here in the country. You think about everything going completely dark, completely shut down, 0 cars on the freeway, Monday through Friday. Just 2 months ago, 3 months ago, to now, I mean, man, if you get in your car to go to the store, it's like normalcy.
Yeah.
Totally. This is January, February, like March, April, and May never even happened. So it's kind of appalling. I mean, it is kind of appalling. And I understand, the death rate is super, super low, but still the fact of the matter is it can be spread like wildfire. And there is a particular demographic that is very, very vulnerable. And there's a couple of demographics that are very vulnerable. And we've got to keep people safe, man.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the schools that have been around for 100, 200 years, I mean, a lot of their fan base that go to the game are very old. If you've watched an Old Dominion game, half the people in the stands are getting the Grand Slam special identities every 7 a.m.
I remember when we went to Kyle Field for the first time.
Yeah.
That was a totally different scene. I mean, you saw a generational fan. For the first time, I'd really, truly see generational fans.
Yeah, you don't see that in Conference USA too much. Maybe a Southern Miss, but yeah, not too much.
Like grandparents, parents, and kids collectively going to the game together. Like 3 generations of family all at the game together.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Well, so, that's a good point, because so far we've only talked about the impact to the student athletes, to the coaches, to the trainers, everything on campus. But the issue of fans being in the stadium, it's a completely separate issue.
So UTSA actually sent out a fan survey today, trying to kind of gauge the temperature, I suppose, of people's comfort with going to the Alamodome to watch football.
Was that pun intended with temperature checks?
It was not, but I'm glad you.
Just take it.
I'm glad you caught it. Would it be appropriate to do Sean Paul Temperatures, the intro song? I'm not pushing it now.
I'm with you on that one.
There's a lot of questions, just kind of general comfort level, right? And I'm very, very curious as to how people really feel, but it seemed like, at least from what I was gauging within our own peer groups, people don't want to go to the stadium and watch football.
It's hard for me to imagine myself feeling comfortable going into the Alamodome for 4 hours. Granted, it's about as spacious as you can get inside of there. But man, it's not going to be the same. It's not going to be as fun. That's for sure. And for folks like us that drive 3-4 hours to the game, it's gonna suck to go there and not be able to tailgate, right? I mean, maybe you can do a socially distant tailgate, but it's still quite risky. Even if it is outdoors, you're still sharing a lot of contact, interaction, and People are just going to come up and hug you, and I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable in that setting, unfortunately. So I don't know. I mean, September is on one hand a long way away, but on the other hand, it's right around the corner. And with the rate that coronavirus is spreading in Texas right now, it's hard to imagine that we'll have this thing beat by September. So, I took the survey and I answered like pretty much no or very low interest in going to games.
I mean, I know I haven't renewed my season tickets yet, and I'm pretty damn undecided.
I mean, dude, there's still the chance that this thing doesn't happen at all.
There might not be any. Yeah, no, you're absolutely
and
right.
UTSA is doing everything they can, right? Like I need to say that they've got a good plan for addressing refunds if games get canceled and stuff like that. Like they've defined that policy early. Super appreciate them for that, but
Yeah. Oh yeah.
still,
But still, yeah, I know it's hard. You can't expect people to commit.
Mhm.
And I mean, what's the earliest? And that's even a weird question because you don't know what the hell's going to happen. What's the early? Because right now right now we're not comfortable with going to a game in September, right?
Yeah.
Early September. Okay. If we don't know what the hell is going to happen the next 2 months, like you say, the whole entire thing could still get sunk. As we've seen, the world can change pretty quick.
Yeah, I mean, a miracle drug could get produced and spread. That's best case, like total like pot of gold in the rainbow luck. But
If
that's,
everything,
yeah,
if everything stays constant as it is today, are you going to a football game this season?
no way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And from what you've gauged, as far as peers, are they going to a game this season?
That's a good question. I haven't really had an earnest discussion with most of my friends about it. I would say a lot of them, yes. But I mean, the attendance is going to be super low. Even if, they have to have 25% or whatever, I think it would still be way below that. It's not going to have the electric atmosphere. I mean, you'd be paying money for like a pretty weird environment that frankly would just bum me out. I mean, like I have had some dining experiences in the past couple months. It's just so weird. It's such a bummer to be dining in this like weird like laboratory type setting where I'm getting sprayed with disinfectant when I walk in, and like these tables are marked off with tape like FEMA came through in a hurricane. Like
Oh my
it's
goodness.
just it's just weird. It's not a good feeling, even if you do get to have like quote unquote freedom.
Yeah. No, yeah, I know, right? The whole summer, people are going to be doing like outdoor stuff that they've never ever done before and just trying to entertain themselves, just going places, but not necessarily indulging in all of the attractions of a place that are man-made and that you have to pay for and you get admission to. But just seeing the world, that's really all that we can do right now. It's the only thing that's safe. I haven't gone to a restaurant inside the Loop. This sounds like it's a pretty intense experience. I have gone to one restaurant here up in the suburbs, and relatively normal. Servers had masks on, but most of the groups of people that were at tables didn't. Everything seemed to be kind of regular.
Yeah, I actually haven't dined anywhere in Houston. It was in Fredericksburg, where I went out to eat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had pretty thorough, I guess, rules that were in place, which was nice. It did make me feel more comfortable and safer, but it also like kind of killed the mood a little bit.
It's also weird. Yeah,
it's just a
weird.
Yeah, it's just a very like very imminent reminder of like what times we're living in.
Yeah, it's very cringy.
It's also a reminder that like even as things return to normal, they're still not normal.
Yeah, it's cringy to think about, man. It's very off-putting. It's very, very off-putting. And we don't know, man. There's been a lot of people that have been very, very close quarters with all of the demonstrations happening. We could get a spike from that. We could get spikes from people returning to work. A lot of companies have reopened. People are going back to the office. Businesses are reopened. Restaurants and bars, like we're just talking about.
Father's Day is coming up, 4th of July.
All of this stuff,
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's very much still a real thing, guys. I guess. So what we're getting at is we have no freaking clue.
Yeah.
We have no clue. We
Yep.
have no clue what the NCAA is going to do, what UTSA is going to do, what we're going to do. We don't know. We
Yeah.
really don't.
Yeah, so one of our listeners, John, did submit a question to us this week. He said NASCAR just announced that they are having races with no fans. How do you think that would play out for college football if implemented? So
Yeah, I
we
think that's a
kind of
great
talked about it a little
question.
bit like atmosphere-wise, but
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. I mean, let's look at it. UFC returned with no fans. They kicked ass. Boxing recently has tried it last week, and it went well. Personally, I
the
think.
Korean
Go ahead.
Baseball League has
The
done it.
Korean Baseball League. Well, that's what I was about to say was I think Major League Baseball has made a huge mistake
Oh yeah.
by not
Yep.
playing this entire goddamn time.
Yep.
This whole time, baseball has should have been played from
Hmm.
the very beginning, opening day. I mean, it's ridiculous. Um, the, there, I love the no fan concept. Um, I understand for college, it's a lot more difficult because college athletics, um, I guess football in particular, right? It really relies on fans more so,
Especially the G5 level, because schools
especially
like UTSA are making scratch from their TV contract.
yeah with our quarter moon productions.
Yeah.
Right,
I mean, does UTSA break even on their lease with the Alamodome if they can't have fans in the stadium?
right.
Are they gonna
Right.
have to go play at, Alamo Stadium or something?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
It's a great question. Do they need to? Yeah.
I think realistically, I think that's what's gonna happen is I think that they're gonna say like no fans allowed at games, but it'll be like super high tier donors that somehow get into the games.
Right.
Yeah.
Associated persons.
Yeah. Which
Um,
are usually old guys that are most at risk of coronavirus, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean, if they want to give a freaking $50,000 donation to go into the suite, that's fine with me, dude.
Yeah.
Look, I think the no fans approach is a great approach. Most people watch from home anyway. We can still watch. We can still root. And
And the ratings will be way up too. That's for sure.
extremely. I also love the idea of this super freaking neutral environment with no noise, no
Right.
home field advantage, no nothing. It's just football. That's it. 1v1. I mean, there is no advantage for either side
So
besides football.
So you say this, but I actually read a book once that talked about that because
Okay.
in some European soccer leagues, if the fans were like really unruly, like doing racist chants or throwing stuff on the field, yada yada yada, they'll actually ban that team from having fans in the stadium for like a season or a match or whatever.
Whoa.
And so there was a study done in games like that. Is there no home team advantage? Does the home team still have an advantage? Does the away team win more games? Whatever. And they actually found that there is still a sizable home pitch advantage, I guess, for soccer, just like the travel aspect and stuff like that. And
Interesting.
there's also the theory, and this wouldn't apply for college football if everyone's doing it, but there's also the theory that the visiting team was so spooked by playing in an empty arena that it
Uh-huh.
like messed with their psyche. But then the home
Right.
team was already used to it because they'd been playing games like that already.
Well, I do think it intensifies it. I do think it intensifies it. Like something very eerie about an empty stadium, but you're still going full speed, still trying to
Hmm.
kill the guy across from you and win the game. Something about that. I mean, it's like almost feels like this is gonna sound weird, but like Mortal Kombat esque. You know what I mean? Like life versus death. It's just us, just here. No one's watching. No one's paying attention. What happens here is everything. Um, and I do think it would make for a very cool sort of theme surrounding
Hmm.
the game and surrounding the season. I'm
Hmm.
all for it. I also think it's the only way that you can safely have games. I mean, fans just
Yeah.
can't be in a
Yeah.
stadium with that many people. I understand they're doing it in New Zealand, but New Zealand reported zero cases of
Right.
COVID-19 for like 2 weeks straight. So they
Yep.
earned that. They earned it. It's like you said, we could have done it, but we didn't.
Yep. Yep. We failed the test.
Yeah, man.
All right, well, that's enough depression. Let's try to get through the rest of this episode before I want to just end it all. Honestly, man, a year off college football might do me good. I've been so productive in quarantine. I got this awesome certification done. I've done all these trainings for work. I'm reading all kinds of books. Like I'm doing good, man.
Yes,
Adopted a
sir.
dog. Like I'm doing
Yes.
good.
Yes. Inject that into my veins, bro. I try to tell, like, I'll tell my friends, like, me and my girl are living our best life over here. What are you
Yeah,
talking about? Like, I work from home, like, a couple hours, I get everything done. Like, I'm working out, I'm eating pretty good, uh,
nice.
read some books, trying to get involved in some other sort of hobbies, supplemental, like, forms of income I can start doing and learning how to just take crafts to different places. I'm loving it, man. I'm really exploring out here, really exploring.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm all about it. I agree. Now, hopefully by 2021 we can start playing football games and attending football games. And 2021 for UTSA has got a couple of new commits. We can only hope they come into a normal football world whenever they get here.
Yeah, seriously. So let's see. There's one, two, three, four, five new commits since the last time we recorded. I'm going to run
Okay.
through all of them real quick. I don't want to spend too much time on them. Of course, when we have our signing day podcast, presumably with Javi Cardenas, if he's still down as always,
Mhm.
we'll go in more detail on these guys. But I wanted to give quick updates on them. I'm going in order of most recent commitment to latest.
Yeah.
First up is River Gordon. He's a 6'4", 290-pound offensive guard. This
Hmm.
dude's a real mauler. He really excels in run blocking. Really reminds me of Will Kavanaugh. Like I don't see him being like a
Okay.
standout NFL draft pick type of lineman, but definitely a guy who's going to give you good utility on the interior of the line and come in and open up some holes for running backs when needed.
Mm.
Great
Okay.
name too. Great name. As soon as
River
Bryce
Gordon,
Rivers left, we needed
strong,
more nautical themes on this roster.
strong name. Um, always fan of two last names. And it's just a place where you always need more, and I love to see it. Anytime we get another hog up here, I love to see it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because that's an area that UTSA is not excelled at recruiting wise.
Mhm.
Well, specifically out of the high school realm, I think Frank Wilson did a good job getting some JUCO guys in. But yeah, for the high school level, it's been lacking for sure.
Oh no, we know. Yeah.
Next guy, I'm super. Honestly, the next three guys I think are all studs. First up is Malik Jones. He is a JUCO, 6'3". He's listed as defensive back, but he plays linebacker a lot in his film, kind of like that Iguagu, Nick Johnson type safety type hybrid, like real close line of scrimmage. And man, his film really impressed me. He's got a dog. I mean, he's got a good knack for the football. He's really explosive, just a playmaker. Loved his film. Really fun to watch. I can see this guy blowing up. I was pretty surprised when I saw his offer list because it's pretty minimal.
Mm.
So I was thinking maybe it's like academic issues, but supposedly he's graduating early from JUCO in December, so he'll be here for the spring. So man, I really hope UTSA can hold on to this guy. I think he could be a game changer.
Nice. I like that.
And the next two guys are actually teammates. They played together at a JUCO in Oklahoma. Ron Tatum, I think, is the more higher rated recruit. He's a six
Yeah.
foot 5 inch defensive end,
Uh-huh.
guy who actually signed with OU out of high school. Didn't work out for him there, but he had a really nice offer list out of high school. I think he was a 4-star coming out of high school. He's a 3-star now. He's got a really good JUCO offer list from
Hmm.
most of the top of the G5 has offered him, and I think Arizona offered him as well. It's gonna be a great fit for UTSA's 3-man front. So really stoked for him. And his teammate is Billy Farrell. He's a nose tackle. I would compare this guy to go back to another UTSA comparison to a much more athletic Farrington Macon because he's a little bit short, a little bit stubby,
Oh,
but
hell of a
man,
name drop right there.
yeah, he's really quick off the ball. He's got a great motor. He chases down the ball carrier. He knows how to follow the action, follow the flow of the play. This is a guy that I think as more teams become familiar with him, I think he's going to get a lot more offers throughout the span of the season.
Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, which could be bad, but
Yeah.
I think UTSA would hang on to these guys.
Okay.
Next up is Micah Young. He's a 6'2" linebacker from Southside High School. I
Hmm.
believe this will be the first Southside product to
I
play for
think
UTSA.
so. I think so. And what better position and where we need it, baby? Linebacker,
Yeah,
South
seriously.
Side. He could be the hometown kid. Whoa,
So if
bruising
I
good.
miss someone from Southside, you guys let me know. But I think he's gonna be the first.
You
And
know what Micah clocks in at on the weight?
what's up?
210, baby. I mean,
Mm.
come on, dog. That's my dude. I mean, it's just the writing is all there. It's all there,
Yeah.
bro.
So my read on Micah is he's a fantastic athlete. His stats are insane. He had 170 tackles last year, 24 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles, 4 sacks. So there's no question he's a D1 athlete, but he's a little bit raw in his technique. His angles are not the best. He can be slow to recognize the play. He's not that great in coverage, I don't think. So he's got some growing to do. Obviously Southside, he's not getting the coaching that he would get at like somewhere like Steele or Judson. And
Molding, yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair statement to make. But
That's fine.
um, he's really really rich clay that you can mold into a fantastic player. So, I mean, if nothing else, I think he'll be a standout on special teams for sure.
He's got a nose for the ball.
Yeah,
Some,
a bit.
some instincts, a little bit of
Yeah.
instinct there.
I can't remember the name of the linebacker they have committed from New Braunfels, but he doesn't have the instincts that guy has. But his
Caden Holt.
speed, yes, thank you. His speed more than makes up for it. So if he can get that part of the game down, he looks like he probably hasn't been playing linebacker for that long. So maybe with the addition of his senior year, come in redshirt.
Okay.
Could be a really nice outside linebacker for UTSA.
Okay. Well, I really like how high you are on Malik Jones. You sounded real pumped about that.
Yeah, dude, I'm really excited for him. I had to watch his film twice because I'm like, man, this guy doesn't have a lot of offers. Maybe I'm missing something, but he looks really legit to me.
It was all there.
Yeah, I think he could definitely make some noise at UTSA.
Nice. Okay.
And the last commit that we haven't talked about yet is Keith Ron Lee. This guy's big time playmaker. I would label him an athlete. He mostly plays wide receiver, but I think he got some snaps at running back and QB as well. So, he's a weapon, and his team will use him wherever they can to put points on the board. But he's extremely fast, like really, really speedy. Get a huge offer list, I think like 14 offers or something like that.
Yeah.
And actually picked up an offer from Pitt after he committed to UTSA.
Nice.
So that's going to be a battle for sure. But he brings speed that UTSA really, really needs out wide.
Yeah, his offer list is extremely long.
He's a guy that I could see returning punts as well.
Brian, Texas. Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought he was from like Mississippi or Louisiana or something. I don't know why.
All right. Yeah.
Well, a lot of good news there. A lot of those guys are really promising. I think the 3 JUCO guys are, really, really high potential dudes. But there was some bad news as well. Cam Scott, who I said was my favorite recruit from this class, has decommitted from UTSA. Got an offer from Ole Miss, and I mean, who doesn't want to go play with Lane Kiffin out there?
It's tough.
Yeah. So he hasn't committed to Ole Miss. He said UTSA is definitely still in the picture. It sounds like he's going to take the official visit to UTSA. So we're not out of this one yet. Who knows? Maybe Ole Miss gets some 5-star guys, 4-star guys. But yeah, a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, that's okay. It happens.
Yeah.
Class is still looking strong, baby.
Oh yeah, for sure. I can't wait for the new rankings to come out. I think UTSA is going to be pretty dang high up there. Especially because a lot of schools are really struggling to recruit right now.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's very difficult. And Traylor has been thriving in the quarantine recruiting.
Cool. So a few more news items to get through before we wrap this thing up. First off, UTSA and Army has announced an extension of their non-conference football schedule agreement.
Yes.
So UTSA is traveling to West Point in 2022. And then in 2023, Army will return to the Alamodome.
Hot damn. So, this is, first off, absolutely fantastic. For the longest time, we wanted service academies, and we finally got them, and now we've got a long-term deal with them.
Yeah.
And this is just great in every single way, Now, on the other note is the 2022 out-of-conference slate is now solidified with U of H, Army, UT, and then TSU. So it's a pretty damn stacked 2022 out-of-conference schedule. Yeah, that'll be a fun one. So pretty happy about that. We just need to get Air Force on now.
Oh yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
And I would love to take a trip out. They're in Colorado Springs, right?
Yeah. Well, and we have a huge you have a huge Air Force training
Hmm.
in San Antonio. That would be perfect.
Yeah, I think Colorado Springs is like UTSA's like fourth largest alumni base or something like that. It's like shockingly high.
Get out of town.
Yeah, I saw it in the alumni magazine one
Like
time.
the largest outside of Texas or something?
Yeah,
Maybe
I guess so.
so.
'Cause I think like DC was number one, and then there was another town that was like it was like that made sense when you read it, but then Colorado Springs was like pretty out there.
Wow. Yeah. That's cool.
Hmm.
Shout out.
Cool. So a lot of transfer portal activity for UTSA, both good and bad.
Yeah.
We'll run through this real quick. Probably the best transfer news is Cedric Alley Jr. transferring from U of H to UTSA for basketball.
Wow.
This is a guy that was really good as a freshman at U of H. And then they kind of got some guys in who just kind of passed him up a little bit. No fault to Alley. U of H was incredible last year. They were like a top 15 team or something like that. And Cedric Alley was a fan favorite at U of H. He got a
Oh
lot
yeah.
of love from Cougars fans when he announced the transfer. So I'm excited for him. He definitely fits a hole on UTSA's team as a wing who's got some serious shooting ability. 6'6", 225. So I think he's a guy who's going to thrive at UTSA. I see him as day one starter. I do think he has to sit out this year.
Yeah, I
Uh,
believe so.
yeah, unless he gets a waiver, which I mean, who knows, right?
Right. Um, so I'm super, super high on this. Cedric Alley was fantastic at U of H. He's also a Houston native, a Spring, Texas native at that. Klein Forest Golden Eagles. My biggest sister's alma mater, as a matter of fact.
Hmm.
So very, very at home, right down the street from where I grew up. So, dude is representing the neighborhood. Cedric Alley, 6'6" forward. It's a place that we need a little bit more versatility. I don't want to say talent, but a little more versatility. I think he is going to be an immediate impact guy, and he's going to fit into this roster really, really well.
Yeah, and I'll say as well, whenever Cedric Alley transferred to UTSA, I reached out to our buddies at the Scott Holman podcast to cover U of H.
Nice.
They had glowing things to say about Cedric, and the thing that stuck out to me the most is they said that he's like a true leader in the program. Even when he was no longer a starter, he was still like the guy, like first off the bench, getting the team pumped up, and like just a great example, gave great leadership. Man, honestly, UTSA missed that so much last year. They needed that guy to glue everyone together. So I think Cedric Alley can bring that to the program.
Nice. Big grab.
Yeah. Now, in some downer news on the basketball side, there was a transfer out. Adoke EIA transferred to
Hmm.
Southern Nazarene, which I was sad to see. I thought Adoke had really high potential. He made some plays his freshman year that,
And he sort of grew a little bit here, you know? I thought he
yeah, I
could
think
have
so.
continued to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm sure this was him looking for more playing time. So I'm sure he's going to be a standout at Southern Nazarene, and we certainly wish him the best, but sad to see him go. And then a lot of activity on the baseball transfer portal, surprisingly, which we hadn't really seen at UTSA, but of course it's different this year because baseball season got canceled, so all of them are free to transfer and
Right.
not have to sit out. So it makes sense.
That's so interesting. Wow.
So one incoming transfer, two outgoing transfers. The incoming transfer is Sean Arnold, who comes in from UIW. So of course he played for Pat Hallmark at
Hallmark
UIW.
doing a little poaching from the old
Yeah,
game.
I think he's got a couple of guys that came over actually.
Town poaching. You gotta love
Wow.
that.
Yeah, seriously.
That's
Um,
great.
Yeah, so Sean Arnold is kind of impressive because he's like a true utility guy. His batting average, I think, has gone up every season that he's played at UAW. So that's encouraging. And just a guy who seems like, a good sound hitter, can play a lot of positions, literally all over the diamond. I read a profile on him from his summer league team, and they're like, yeah, he's like our first guy. Like, if someone gets hurt, we're going to put Sean out there in his spot. We can trust him to, like, make the right play on defense and not do anything
Nice.
stupid. So you
Nice.
need guys like that. Then, unfortunately, UTSA lost two really good players as well. Brian Sturgis transferred to A&M, and then Palmer Wenzel transferred to UT, which, I mean, hard to turn down those opportunities. And both
Big
those guys
upgrades.
played
Yeah.
super well last season, and definitely very deserving for those guys to go out.
They
And,
deserve it, and it speaks to, you know, what UTSA was able to do for them.
yeah, I think so, man. I
You
mean, no
know,
shame in it.
launch pad, baby.
Yeah.
Love to see that.
Hmm. Well, last up, we have another somber topic. I'm sorry, it's been a lot of bummer topics this week, but
Yeah,
such as the times, right? But we just wanted to give a big rest in peace shout out to Ken Burmeister, former UTSA head coach. Brought UTSA
second
the
coach.
first. Yeah,
Second,
second. Yeah, you're right.
second coach in UTSA history. Very
Yep.
second one. Yeah.
But he brought UTSA to its first ever NCAA tournament. So,
Yes. 1988 March Madness. We were there underneath Ken, and a program record 621 winning percentage.
mm-hmm. Excellent. Yeah, and a guy who's a legend in San Antonio as well. I mean, he coached at Trinity, did a phenomenal job
Yeah.
there. And then
Yeah.
he coached in Incarnate Word for, I don't know, like 10 years.
I'd say Sports Hall of Fame, if you ask
Mm-hmm.
me.
Is he already in, or is he
He might
going
not
to
be
be
in
in?
yet. Yeah, I don't think he's in yet. But he ought to be. He would certainly earn a spot if he's not in
Oh,
there.
yeah, man. It would be an injustice
I don't
if
see
he
any
doesn't get
reference.
in.
I don't see any reference to it here. I feel like they would
Okay.
have referenced it.
Okay. Yeah, let
Uh,
me know if I need to email. I'll write a strong letter.
Dude, that'd be sweet. That'd be sweet. Speaking of emails, we do now have a Alamodome Audible newsletter going out to listeners on right now it's the off season, so it's kind of a monthly basis, but if and when football does arrive, we'll be sending out weekly, and it just kind of news and updates around the podcast, around the campus, around the teams that we love. So we're going to be posting a link if you guys aren't signed up. All of our Patreon subscribers get it automatically. If you're a Patreon subscriber and you didn't get it, check your spam folder, move it to the inbox, and it should go there from here on out. And then we'll be tweeting out a link here over the next week for non-subscribers to go ahead and sign up for that newsletter as well.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for your work on that, Adrian. It was really good stuff, man. A lot of good content in that.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. Well, we're gonna wrap it up. We got through a lot on this episode, and we didn't run too late. So, pat on the back to us. We're doing it.
We're trying.
Mid-season form.
Sorry for the hiatus, guys. Jared and I had some work stuff to do. We had certifications and tests we had to pass. It sucks that you have to take tests when you're done with college, but it happens. So we've kind of cleared our plates after these last 3 weeks. So expect the content to start to come a little bit more regularly from here on out, and hopefully news will coincide with that effort.
Yes, sir. All right, guys. Well, again, happy Father's Day to all you dads out there. I hope you guys all continue to stay safe and wear your damn mask, man.
Happy Father's Day.